Hello guys and welcome back to this new video. Today we will cover a game from the FTX Crypto Cup in Miami. It's day 1 and it's the first game of the match between Alireza Firouzja and Praggnanandhaa. So without any spoilers, let's see what happened in this game. Prag is playing with white and he starts with e4. e5 by Alireza and now knight to f3. Knight to c6 and now bishop to b5 going for the Roy Lopez. Knight to f6, the Berlin defense is on the board. And now white simply castles. Knight capture on e4, and the point here is that the pawn on a4 was indirectly defended, and here Praggnanandhaa plays rook to e1. I should mention there is another alternative. You can, for example, play pawn to d4. Now after knight to d6 hitting the bishop, bishop capture on c6, pawn capture on c6, pawn capture on e5, knight to f5, queen capture on d8, king capture on d8, rook to d1 check, king to e8, and knight to c3. And this is the famous Berlin endgame. It was popularized by Vladimir Kramnik in the year 2000 in his match against Garry Kasparov. And black here is considered to be completely equal. So over the years the players started avoiding this endgame, and now the most popular move is rook to e1. And now white is attacking the knight and he's going to gain his pawn back, and also there is no queen trades, which keeps more life in the position. Knight to d6 and now knight capture on e5. Here you cannot capture the bishop because knight capture on c6 will win the queen. The queen will have to block, and now black is just lost. So here black blocks the e file, and now bishop back to f1. Knight capture on e5 and the rook capture on e5. Short castle by black, and now knight to c3. And here there are a couple of options. For example, you can play c6, you can play bishop to f6 attack the rook, and here Firouzja played knight to e8. This move intends to rear out the knight to, for example, f6, or maybe d6 when the pawn leaves d7. Knight to d5 attacking the bishop, and now bishop to d6, rook back to e1, and now c6, knight to e3, and bishop back to e7. Knight to f5 continuing the attack against the bishop, and now bishop to g5, e3, d5, and now bishop capture on g5, queen capture on g5, knight to e7 check, and king to h8. Praggnanandhaa here simply grabbed the bishop on c8, and now rook capture on c8. And this is actually a very nice idea by Prag. White now intends to initiate the play on the queen side, and he starts immediately attacking on the queen side with the move c4. Knight to f6 by Alireza, and now queen to b3. Now white is attacking the pawn on b7, and you can, for example, defend passively with rook to b8, but we all know this is not the style of Alireza Firouzja. Here black played a very nice move. He played queen to f4, and the point here, if you capture on b7, now knight to g4. And actually now there is a forced mating tree. White cannot do anything. Black is attacking both the h2 and f2 pawns. And for example, if you play something like g3, queen capture on f2, king to h1, and queen capture on h2 mate. So here you have to start with g3, and now queen back to c7, defending the pawn on b7. Queen to a3, and now c5 by Alireza. And here Praggnanandhaa spots a very nice idea. Here you can see that the queen on c file is a little bit uncomfortable. White can play, for example, rook to c1, and maybe later try to open the c file with the move d4. Here Praggnanandhaa starts with capturing the pawn on d5, and after knight capture, rook to c1. Now white strategy to play d4, so black removes his queen from the c file, queen to b6, and now rook to e5. Both the knight and the pawn are attacked. Black goes knight to b4, and now d4 immediately attacking the pawn on c7. And here you cannot capture because white has this move rook to b5, and after you capture the rook, rook capture on b6, pawn capture on b6, white will simply win a piece. So here Firouzja simply dropped back his knight to c6, and now white wins the pawn on c5. And at this point, black's position is really bad. Rook on a to d8, attacking the pawn, and now d5, knight to e5, queen to c3, and rook to e8. h3 by Praggnanandhaa, and now queen to d6, blocking the pawn on d5. Bishop to g2, h5 by Firouzja, trying to start the play on the king side, and now rook to c7. The pawn on b7 is attacked, so Firouzja played rook to b8, and now queen to a3. And here black cannot afford to trade queens. If you trade queens here, you're completely lost. Black's position is very passive, the rook on b8 is very bad, and also this passer on the d file will simply decide the game. So understandably here, Alireza avoids the trade of the queens, even though it's not the best move, and he plays queen to b6. And now d6 by white, queen to d4, and now queen to c5, offering a trade of queens again. Black cannot trade, queen capture on b2, and the point here is that white is attacking indirectly the pawn on h7, So we can immediately see that the move that white has to play here is f4. And after the knight moves, queen capture on h5 with check, king to g8, and now bishop to d5. And the white's threat here is very simple. He wants to capture on f7, which will be devastating. So Alireza simply defended the pawn on f7. And now if you capture the knight utilizing this pin, this is not good because black has this check. And if you put your king, for example, on h2, black will simply repeat the moves. If you go to h1, black will capture with check. And if you put your king on f1, black will capture the bishop. And your king is very exposed. And actually here, black is slightly better. So now after we saw this line, white's next move will become very easy to understand. He simply put his king on h1. Now that there is no more check on d4, white's threat again is to capture the knight. So black has to defend and he puts his queen back to f6. d7 by white, queen to d6, and here you can simply win the game by capturing the pawn on f7. And the point here, after the rook captures, now you play rook to c8. If black captures, you make a new queen and you win. And for example, if black drops his rook back, simply rook capture on b8, rook capture on b8, and rook to c8 is the same story again. And here if black simply defends with his knight, you simply capture a rook and you are completely winning. For example, you can play here the other rook to c8, and this will surely end in checkmate. But here Pragg didn't have that much time on his clock to calculate these variations, and he simply dropped his bishop back to e4. Rook on b to d8, attacking the pawn, and now queen to f5. Queen to a3, attacking the pawn on g3, and now king to h2, defending the pawn. Queen capture on a2, rook to c2, blocking the check, and now queen to a4. And here Praggnanandhaa played a very calm move, after which Firouzja immediately resigned. He simply played h4. And the point that black resigned here is that white's threat is very simple and direct. Whites want to play h5. And after the knight moves, there is a checkmate on the h7 square. And here there is actually no way to stop white from playing h5. If for example you play something like queen to a6, adding more support to your knight, now simply h5. And after something like queen to f6, queen capture, pawn capture, and now you win the knight on g6 and white is completely winning. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. Please, if you're not already subscribed to my channel, hit the subscribe button and also turn on the notification bell to get our latest videos. Thank you guys for watching and see you in the next video.